My name is Gil Adio with Axos Clearing. Axos Clearing is providing next generation support to wealth managers, encompassing our banking solutions at Axos Bank, along with our cutting edge technology that we've built in-house and have partnered with some of the leading providers in the industry. So come by and see us at our booth downstairs. We have an amazing giveaway for you guys. We're embossing your initials and some great leather goods, so please stop by, get that, and talk more about our clearing services. Happy to introduce our panel today, talking about shaping tomorrow's workforce, recruiting in the world of AI. So I'll turn it over to our esteemed panel. Thanks for coming.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for coming and welcome. Pretty excited about this morning's conversation. Not a big crew, so hopefully you got some questions for us, so a little interaction. So what we're looking to do today is we'd like to keep it as interactive as possible. So I think everybody knows how to use the app. If you don't, you just kind of pop on the agenda, you go to our session. There's a polling question in there. There's 2 polling questions. If you guys wouldn't mind just taking a swing at answering those. And then obviously, if there's questions during the conversation, feel free to jump in and just, like I said, it's not a big room, so I can see a hand raised. And we'd rather talk and have a conversation about our topics with you guys in the room. But again, we'll be ready to talk through we're going through 5 topics tonight. We're gonna talk about recruiting, interviewing and the interview process, talent upskilling, supporting advisors, and then some acquisitions of customers or advisors. Those are the main topics we're gonna kind of discuss today, and how we're seeing AI interact in those spaces. So I'm gonna just hand it off to everybody to give a quick intro, so everybody knows who's on the panel this morning, and then we'll dive right in.
Hi, good morning. My name is Michael Scaplen, Head of Business Development for Axos Clearing, the clearing division of Axos Financial, handling the sales team, the relationship management team, with the dotted line into marketing. So with a 25-year career in clearing, there's been many a time where we've worked to sell clearing, but where we've worked to bring on and recruit various levels of employment, from mid-tier operations to the senior suite, where we always bring it across our senior leadership to bring somebody in and ensure they're a cultural fit, make sure they're an educational fit, they bring the right skill set to the table, and it takes a team to make sure that a senior level person is going to fit right in our cultural package. So I do have a lot of experience in recruiting, working with the team, and diving into the background to ensure that this is the right candidate for us.
Great. Rob Milmore, I'm with First Command. We are headquarters here in Dallas-Fort Worth. I actually run the First Command office in Colorado Springs, the OSJ. So I wear a multitude of hats, one of which is recruiting. So I do that on a daily basis, amongst training and mentoring and the like. We deal primarily with the military community. We've been around about 70 years as a company. About 8 out of 10 of our advisors, so 80% of our advisors have come from the military and military spouses. Kind of a unique subset of the market that we work with.
Great, I'm Mike Byrnes. I have my own consulting firm, as you can see up there. I've been doing this since 2008. I help advisors grow our large financial institutions. That's one thing I do. The other thing is I write a lot. So I've published 450 times in the industry and speak a lot. The one kind of interesting thing that you might be excited about is Financial Advisor Magazine and I are putting together a partnership, and we're going to come out with an AI newsletter. So you're kind of the first ones to know about this, and it's exciting. Kind of got a backlog of some great articles ready to go. Doing the final touches with the sponsorships, and that should be ready to launch too. So if you're interested in submitting an article or something, come grab a business card, because I'm going to be looking for a lot of great sources for information.
And I'm just real quick, Mark Guglielmo with Greenline Consulting. Been in the industry over 30 years. Greenline, we focus on helping and supporting wealth management firms in strategies around operations and technologies and integrations. So thanks all for coming today, and I think we'll just jump right in, right? So recruiting. All right, so let's just start off with, I guess, Rob. I saw an article where James Ellis argues that recruiting starts with attracting the talent you need for your organization. How are you approaching this challenge, and what kind of tools are you using when you're looking at recruiting?
Sure. So You know, tools, so as I said, one thing unique about our company, we don't necessarily buy the business from another, broker-dealer or IA and bring it over. We home grow everybody, right? So many of our advisors, as I said, we're in uniform at some point, we train them up, and we bring them from passing the first series, 6, 7, whatever it may be, all the way throughout. All that to say, we need to cast a fairly large net in a, kind of a specific pond, and what we're utilizing, we leverage a lot, is technology with respect to the platforms I'm sure most of us have heard of. So Indeed, LinkedIn, etc. So really, we utilize those, and obviously AI, I'll speak to that now, that's really helped accelerate it and be a multiplier for us. But really, it's that talent acquisition and content generation, specifically with recruiting. So on the talent acquisition piece, so we'll go into an Indeed or LinkedIn, and I was actually in LinkedIn this morning. I utilize it every day. But basically, from a campaign perspective, you can set up your criteria of who you want to have, what type of individual you're looking for, and then it starts to populate, those specific folks for you. And then from there, kind of the predictive AI nature comes into effect, where every morning I go into it, it gives me 25, 30 candidates to choose from, right? And then as we kind of progress into where technology has become, and more so today with these platforms and these vendors, is the generative space. So targeted messaging, calendar management, and even the interview process can be done through AI. So how we're using that piece, which I'll speak to specifically on messaging, right? So they can tailor messages for you. It can speak to whatever kind of tone you want to have, from professional to casual, whatever it may be, but it'll give you that. And really, it helps accelerate things for you and save you a tremendous amount of time, right? So that's the first piece we use it for, is the actual messaging out there. Also calendar management, folks that have recruited, to get somebody on your calendar, you go back and you go forth. It seems trite, but it is laborious, right, to say the least. This can do it for you, right? So it'll reach out to that candidate, it'll put them on your calendar, you'll have them on there. Let's kind of get into that where I think AI is going, the agentic space, which is kind of doing your calendar for you as an agent. And it'll set that up for you and do that. Tremendous time saver. It helps that lead generation, again, for us in the unique space where we have to cast that wide net and web. It helps us do that. And then interview. So we're not using this yet, but we're looking at it. It can actually do the interview for you, right? So it's kind of there's multiple firms out there. There's Interview AI, Interview X, Interview View. There's multitude of platforms that you can utilize for this. But basically, what it can do is do that initial interview for you. So it's an avatar. It can be set up male, female, professional to casual, whatever the attire may be. You feed it with the questions you want to feed it, and other criteria that you have. It'll conduct the interview for you, at the end of which it'll give you the synopsis of that. Also, the criteria you have for what's a quality candidate, what isn't a quality candidate. It'll scorecard that for you, to give you the best quality person you're looking for. So it helps accelerate that. It gives you that ability to save a lot of time. So for us, it's tremendous. That's how we're using it in the recruiting space, from talent acquisition. And then content generation, I think a lot of us are familiar if you use ChatGPT or the other ones. So if I'm going to do, for example, a job fair, whether it be virtual or in person, whatever it may be, I'm going to either create content for me, right? Either on digital pictures or videos, it could do that. Or if I have original content, I'll feed that into whatever the AI system that I have to recommend the best picture to utilize for the particular demographic or target that I'm going for. It'll also generate content for you to include hashtags that you may want to utilize to reach that broader audience that you have. And it does that for you in seconds, right? This normally took minutes to hours, right? To kind of go through that and think about that. It's happening here in real time and in seconds. And then for us, the way we stay on brand standard and within compliance, all of our social goes through Hearsay, right? That's the platform that we utilize. So we put it through there. We've got a supervision and a compliance manager who will look at all the posts that go through there to ensure it's compliant, to ensure it's on brand standard, right? Not using words like guaranteed and that type of stuff, but also to tighten that up. So it kind of all flows through that conduit. And that's really how AI is helping us accelerate and do that, especially for our business model, to get out there and cast that much wider and larger net.
Yeah, thanks.
Rob, quick question.
Yeah.
So are you finding an age demographic where that works better than others? I mean, old guy like me, I'm gonna struggle with an avatar, right? But are you finding that it's kind of age related?
Did everybody hear that question?
Yeah, so you talk about the interview,
Yeah,
right?
that's-
So that we have not actually integrated that last piece where it is the interview, and I think that's a great question because I don't think it's necessarily an age demographic. I think it's a talent issue. So anecdotally, from what I've both read and talked to folks, someone who's of quality talent's not gonna take an AI interview right now. They'll say that, like, hey, if this person really wants to talk to me, they're gonna do a real life in-person interview. So I don't know necessarily if it's a demographic thing at this point. I think it's more of a talent, but I think that as this proliferates throughout the industry, right, and it becomes more so, people might get on board with it. But that's one of the concerns why we haven't kind of inculcated it into our practice yet, is because of things like that. But good question. Hopefully I answered it for you.
So Mike, I know you don't really recruit advisors, but you do recruiting for Axos, right? And for workforce. Can you talk a little bit about how you guys are using AI and what kind of tools you guys are using?
Yeah, and we're very in similar capacity to what Robert's building over here. We're using AI tools for the same thing, right? To create that notification that's going out to Indeed, to create that notification that we're pushing out to the street that shows what we're looking for. So as we're developing out the position, we're loading that into ChatGPT and other systems and trying to figure out how it best outlines what we're looking for. And as we go through that process, then the resumes start to come in. We're also using tools. We're looking at a bunch of different ones: Hire Easy, Hire Score, Paradox, Phenom, trying to figure out which tool is going to be the best. Right now we're in Workday, so there's a component in Workday that ties those resumes back. So we can come in, we get a tremendous amount of resumes these days when we put something out there. So the qualification standpoint, it's a vetting, it's a wall that goes up. It goes through each candidate, spins through the buzzword, spins through what they posted in there to see if it's a fit, and then it starts coming in. And as those resumes start to come in, then we start to use similar appointment tools where we're building the appointments out, and we start the first line of initial interview process. So that's how we start with most positions. But what you'll find as you get into the more talented positions, the position like Gil was asking about, is where does that level from AI change between what you can put an avatar on versus what you need strong sales skills into. So we utilize the AI tools. So in my position, I'm usually interviewing somebody at the mid-tier management or C-suite or higher level, somebody who's been on the street a good long time. So we go through the general processes, but unfortunately, the AI, it's harder to implement on those higher level positions because it usually turns into, I know somebody, I got a guy, I know somebody who's at a firm for 25 years, I know somebody who's at a firm for 15 years. That candidate will be great, that gal will be great, she'd be fantastic. So we're trying to figure out how to utilize the AI as you move it up the corporate ladder. But again, as you get higher in the ranks, I think it's more difficult because they do want to talk to somebody and they probably deserve to talk to somebody, right? I don't want to put a chatbot on somebody with a 25-year career. I want to sit down, I want to crack that nut open and figure out how'd you do it. Then I want to go see them, or I want them to come see me. It's a very personal touch to hire a C-level or a higher level person than if you're just hiring somebody coming right out of college where you can implement some of the AI. So we are working and we're looking at all these different AI components and how they best fit and how we can recruit and how we can bring in operational components, operational people. But again, it's the mix of bringing in the right talent who knows how to use the bit of AI and then can take it to the next level with the hire.
Yeah. So hey, Mike Byrnes, so you talked, I know you look at the marketing side of this, and Rob talked about it a little bit. And when we talk about, again, the brand side of this, and when you're trying to recruit younger employees into your organization, can you kind of talk a little bit about how AI can help with that and the branding and really getting your firm?
Yeah, thank you. So it's pretty funny, in preparation for this, after we had our first call, I had two clients last week, just randomly that this happened, that said that the first thing, and they both said it in different words, but one was a CA, new client associate, and another one was more of a receptionist person and they said that the first thing that they train that person on is to screen the calls for recruiters and wholesalers, and their advisors don't want those calls. So there's that headwind. From a marketing standpoint, I don't know if you've heard this, but there's people out there that's saying that search is going to go down to 0. I don't believe that's a crazy number, but you have to be aware, if you go do searches right now, AI is trying to answer the question. So your website, if you're a marketer, if you're a recruiter, whatever you're trying to do, your website might not come up when they do the research. And they're gonna research it. It's a big decision. They're gonna do research. So I can tackle that one in a second. The other one is, the benefit of AI is it can create unbelievable content, and I believe in some ways better than human beings. We can talk about that in a second too, but But that's a negative too, because there's so much content out there. I wrote it down so I don't mess it up. Over 3 trillion emails are sent every second in this world, and that's only going to continue to increase. So what's AI going to do is going to work against you. So if email is a big way of how you get new recruits in, guess what? You're in big trouble, because the big thing, Gmails and probably your own company and such are screening things out and filtering it. It's going to get harder and harder and harder to get through. So email marketing has to be more effective too. All right, how do you solve some of these things? The best way to recruit somebody is to get in person in front of them. This one isn't an AI tip, but we said we could throw a couple of non-AI things in there. Personalized video emails are wonderful. It's a first impression. You send it out. There's tools, so you're not sending a big chunky 20 megabyte file. You're using a tool to get in front of them. But what content should you have? So all of these people need to have content that's going to crack through the nut. When in Marketing 101, you kind of learn about A/B testing. If you don't know what that is, it means test campaign A versus campaign B. I mean, that's nothing. AI is going to take that and revolution it like crazy. You can have 1,000. So if you ever, back 10 years ago, in direct mail, they called it segments or cells, and we would, in a direct mail campaign, you would test 160 cells. I thought that was crazy, like different types of paper, different type of messaging, different type of envelope, and all these things. It was just scientific. Well, guess what? That was direct mail. Now, online, things are infinite of what you can do. So AI is going to do this in real time, and digital advertising, for example, too, is going to be off the charts of what you can do. So now you might hire an agency, and they might wait a week to look at the results. AI is going to do it in real time. They're going to test these campaigns and different tools and different ways to communicate your message. So again, you have to kind of be aware of the two things that are going on. One, AI is going to work against you from a marketing standpoint, but it can also really work for you. I don't want to take too much time early because I can go back to marketing, but that's some stuff that I think you got to kind of get your eyes on and have a concept that is happening.
Thanks. So, any other questions on recruiting from that? We'll jump into topic 2, which is the interview process, right? So, you touched on it a little bit, Rob, but AI can be used as an initial screener, but there's risk, right? There's risk you can miss the right candidate. Right. There's risk the candidate can be put in. You have multiple job opportunities. It could be put to the wrong kind of opportunity interviewing process. So, how do you, or why don't we start with you, Mike? Like, how do you look at that in the interview process? Where is AI helpful? To phrase Mike, where could it be hurtful? How do you manage it?
Well, yeah, so sure. So so Axos is a multi-entity institutional platform, right? So you've got banking, you've got clearing, you've got custody, we have a robo-advisor, and we've got that all tied into a single entity. And what happens is, our recruiting site, it all starts on Axos. So when you go into Axos, you've got bank requirements, you've got clearing, you've got custody, and people just start firing resumes in. They see relationship manager, and they're not looking that it's a relationship manager at the bank. You've got client services, and it's going to the wrong box. So you've got this infinite number of resumes that keep coming in. So how do you unwind that is the question. So what we do is we utilize AI to first source them out, right? Does that candidate have the tool set to do what they're applying for? Are they a client service manager? Are they a relationship manager? Are they a P&L clerk? What is their role and responsibility? And first off, are they right for that position? And if the answer is no, then a secondary process is kicked off. Okay, well, what position are they right for? So are we missing candidates? Possibly, but we're doing everything that we can not to miss the opportunity, because there could be a fantastic person in there. We don't want to miss him or her. We want them on our team. We want them at Axos, but we need to make sure they're in the right bucket. So again, our AI goes through 2 protocols where you're going into the process. Are you right for the position? And then the secondary protocol, are you right for a different position underneath the Axos umbrella with maybe banking or clearing or custody?
Great. Rob, what do you got?
Yeah, that's great. Couple things on that. One, from the funnel perspective, right? What I described earlier is that front end of the funnel. So we absolutely use AI to get out and reach as many people as we possibly can. Yes, it has some drawbacks. If I want somebody specifically, because at the end of the day, you control it, right? It's AI and the human and us. So I can determine, hey, just kind of punt that one through to do the auto calendar, and at some point maybe even do the auto interview or whatever. Because one thing you learn as you interview a lot, you know, you get done with an interview, you're like, I'll never get that hour back again ever in my life, right? Not that they're bad people, it's just not a good fit, right? At the end of the interview, they go, oh, I'm not into sales, so should have done that a little bit earlier in the conversation. That can get screened out, I think, and then you can be selective about who you pick. So that helps kind of, I think, mitigate some of that loss in talent. So you can control that piece of it. And then kind of the next phase as you come into the interview process is just that, it's the interview process. So I'll probably do 5 to 10 interviews a week. My recruiter probably does a multiple of that. So really, that's a lot of data and information with people. You honestly forget who you talk to. It's just, you know, we're all been in that position. You're like, I don't know who this person was, I don't really remember. So what I typically do, and the software's already out there, so if you're on Zoom, it has Companion. If you're on Microsoft, it has Copilot. They can, you know, do an aggregate of those notes, so you have that, and then you can put that into a content generator like ChatGPT or something based on your criteria to say, hey, out of these 10 people, these notes that I have in particular, who's the best individual? Yeah, that would do that. You can utilize that for that. At least help you with the process. Because again, you're feeding the machine what it wants to be, and hopefully you're getting that output, and then obviously you put your common sense and that sanity check on it. I had one other point that's escaped me now that I thought was worthwhile. Sorry.
What about anything around how to generate the questions, how to kind of scope the interview?
So that was actually it. Yeah. So one thing too, it's like we're on the same wavelength, Mark. One thing too, I thought is really good. I don't know if anyone's experienced it, when you do Zoom Companion or Copilot, you get the feedback of the meeting, right? You get that text as it comes back. It's interesting, right? Seeing what you said and seeing and reading it. It's almost like hearing yourself, you know, on audio for the first time. It's kind of weird and awkward. That was just my experience with it when I first went through it. But you learn, hey, what was I trying to deliver in that meeting? What was my intent, and was it met? And I mean, the AI is going to feed back to you what you said in a very good synopsis type of way, so you know that. So therefore, you can help shape your questions better. Hey, if you didn't ask that the right way, that's where I think the tools are pretty powerful, giving you that unbiased feedback. And frankly, you're doing so many of the meetings. Clearly, no one's watching you during those. There's no one else giving you that feedback. The system or the platform can do that for you.
But do you have a subset of questions going into each interview already?
Yeah, I do, but I had started that kind of before AI became really a thing, right? Just kind of over time. I had some things that I had. I don't ask the traditional, like, tell me about a challenging time in your life type of questions. That's not really my style. I want to make sure it's a good fit. I have a good dialogue with that person. I want to get their personality, who they are, right? See if they're good at this. They have that type of acumen we're looking for. So I kind of had that beforehand. So I haven't, to tell you the truth, I haven't had help like shape the questions. I help like get that feedback on it and see how I'm doing. It's almost like, you know, it's someone giving me immediate feedback on my process.
You guys see, I'm just curious, do you see the funnel that you're talking about getting wider? Because, you know, candidates are writing with AI too, right? So they're looking at your posting, AI is saying, hey, you should put these qualifications that will match this job role. So you're seeing your funnels getting much bigger before you filter that. You really got AI versus AI.
Right, for sure. I think that's always been a thing, right? Like I remember when I first left active duty about, I was in the military, I'm still reservist, but I left active duty about 15 years ago, and I was gonna go to the FBI, and it was USA Jobs at the time, was the webpage you had to go through. And I remember thinking, the kind of resume I don't even have, I had no idea. I paid somebody that had like a 15-page resume, which sounds like bananas right now, but they actually, the system, the algorithms back then, however weak they were, would read off that to take that in. So it's always been a thing. I think you've always tried to like trick the system, you know, or try to get there. I think at the end of the day, it comes, everything pipes through us, so the human element will come involved. The net is wider. Frankly, I want it to be wider. I want to reach as much as I possibly can to get out there, and that's where I think AI helps us do that. So if they're using a machine to get to me and I'm using one to get to them, I'm good with that. At the end of the day, it's all going to parent to me at some point. I'd rather have that wider net. Again, we're a different business model. We're not going for that kind of sniper shot for somebody who's a C-level suite or maybe higher level management necessarily. So that would be a different approach, I think. But for us, I don't mind it, honestly. If they want to try to fool it, by all means, you got to come to me anyway at some point. So we're going to eventually get there.
Well, and a lot of the resumes that we see, they're not using I mean, sometimes they are, but more in the mid-level manager, you've got somebody who's well-equipped, who's been on the street, who's been out there, been in the industry. They know they're young enough to really start getting into AI. But some of the senior ones, I mean, God love them, but I mean, they're not using AI.
Yeah, and I think it goes back, we talked a little bit when we were prepping, and it also goes back to, you know, we all sat through most of the session, the other AI session, with the more technical side of it. And it is that human element, right? And when you think about interviewing, right, you know, the prep on the recruiting, the branding, you want to get that message out, right? And you want to attract the people you can and the type of person who's looking to match up with you. But I think with the interview process, unless, maybe as AI gets smarter and stronger, it could do that, but that personal side, I don't know how you all feel, but my perspective is, especially in the interview process, right? That personal conversation is really where you got to get through. I think what we're seeing is, we're seeing less misses, meaning you're sitting there talking to somebody who has no business being interviewing for this job, because there was, you can screen a little better. But when we get to that final conversation process, I think it really helps it, which is, when we talk about it, right, that's an efficiency. All of us, and especially folks in the executive level, right, you need your time.
Can you drill a little bit when you guys started to talk about, you get a summary of your notes, you kind of see what it really sounded like. Have any of you really had a chance to maybe use AI on the post side of things to figure out, how effective your process was, your tuning? I get you're probably getting some measurement of that along the way, but I don't know if anyone kind of used it on the back end.
I mean, not necessarily the back end. Like I said, what I do is when I read it, see like my context, how it was. It'll actually give you like inflection, tone, right, that type of thing. So you can kind of see that if it's getting better at that. Like the true back end, kind of go back to the process. I mean, I have my interview process. It's typically a 3-meeting process, and I'm very specific in my optic that each one of those and how I get better at it. AI is helping kind of iterate throughout to make things better. But on the back end, I wouldn't say anything necessarily on that.
And I think that's something that we at Axos are working towards. So we don't have that built in right now, but it's something that we're looking at in the tenure of employee, the satisfaction of employee, and did we hire the right candidate who stayed around past the first 2 years? Are they in the 2 to 5 year bucket? Who hired them? How did we hire them? What did we do? So we're starting to review that now and go back, but we don't have probably as many hires as what you guys might have. So for us, there's less data, but we're again trying to figure out, was this person a cultural fit from the beginning, and did we hire the right person? So we're starting to spin backwards and kind of look back. We're using the predictive modeling to try to figure out, is this person a cultural fit? So that's, not only are we looking back, but we want to make sure that person's in the right culture. Did we just throw a Starbucks person into a room full of people who are Dunkin' people, right? They're probably not going to fit. I mean, but there's little things like that. Are they a Disney person, right? Because you've got some Disney people and some people are not. And these are little things. So again, as we use this predictive analytics to dive into the culture, dive into the people, we're trying to learn more about what makes them tick. Why do they make a decision? So that leans a little bit into the marketing side. So I think these tools can be used well for marketing and for recruitment, but it's a matter of, is your target message on point? Have you answered the right questions? Have you asked the right questions? And do they fit in that scenario? So whether we're marketing to a person or marketing to market our business, again, that cultural fit is very important. So again, we're building that.
I'll just make one quick comment, and maybe Mike, you speak on this. It's kind of that A/B testing, right? So Google published, 10 years ago, they figured out in their engineering interviews that they didn't need more than 4 interviews. After 4, they had enough data, and so having 5, 6, 7 people interview was pointless because they could gather that. And I guess I'm kind of wondering if AI could help us do that, kind of retrospectively look back and say your messaging was great because you hired what you messaged, or you have too many interviewers, or all of that stuff. I just haven't seen anyone get there yet, so.
You want me to take it? Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to answer the question in a wholly different way, and I'll get back to yours in a second. Quick show of hands, anybody here hire a prompt engineer? Prompt engineer, okay. Do you really? I got one kind of finger up. So Forbes just put out the #1 job for people coming out of college is a prompt engineer. And it's basically because we all get that AI is going to help us, but we don't know how to help AI. If you put in junk to AI, you can get junk back. And so when we're talking about interviewing, I actually kind of, rather than the people you're already interviewing, consider interviewing this person that has this type of talent. Then simple solutions like that are amazing. The first panel had a great comment, teach everybody in your organization how to use AI. And then when that happens, they can, if they know how to use it, they can use it in their personal life, but they can also use it at work in a controlled environment and come up with the answers to very simple questions like that. And so I don't know, I didn't quite answer your question, but the modeling is there. It's just, you have to put it in place and customize it for yourself.
I just had a question on the front end. So AI aside, do any of you measure sort of how much more efficient you are with the funnel at the front end? So it's like the expectation is, okay, you're going to be able to cast a wider net and more quickly get to qualified candidates, right? I mean, that's essentially what you're hoping to do at the front end. So forget about what happens at the back. Do any of you measure how much more landscape you're able to cover when you're searching for a job? How much more quickly you get to an offer? Is there any of that? AI aside, have you measured that pre and post? In terms
Yeah,
of how you
on the Axos side, we definitely do. I get the reports for some of the personnel that I hire, but again, I'm hiring a more niche candidate, right? So when you're hiring a clearing salesperson, there's not 1,000 candidates that come in, right? Because the gating points to get to a good clearing salesperson, there's a lot that most people are not going to be qualified for. So we're looking for that person who's got sales experience, who's got the niche experience in clearing, but I do get the reports of how many come in, how many we've passed on, how many we're looking at, how fast they come in. So I have data analytics in Workday, and I know that the HR team has tons of analytics across how fast they hire people, more in the mid-level and the entry-level positions.
You know, mine is not that, I think, at Fidelity as much as his does, right? Mine's very disparate, right? So there's 80 of me throughout the country, right, who do this. We do it in an individual way, right? So yes, we still pipe up into the mothership, if you will, and there's recruiting in the department there, but it's how we do it. You know, I would say I look at it more anecdotally in that my activations, which we call that people coming on board, it has substantially increased since we started utilizing this, right? Especially the vendors, the platforms, the Indeeds, LinkedIn's of the world, right? As opposed to the older days going to the resume type of thing, like a Monster 10 years ago, where you have 100 resumes, like crazy. So yes, it absolutely has. I haven't gotten to what you're talking about, like the numbers up front, because honestly, it never ends for me. I'll be in a room over here talking to somebody about recruiting. I'm always on, it's like a sales job, you're always doing it. So we go to job fairs, we go to a multitude of different things. So I've never qualified it that particular way, but I do know since I've gotten into this, we started utilizing a lot more and actually, you know, pulling the trigger on these different AI functionalities, it has substantially increased our activation base on my end. So it's more anecdotal.
Yep. So he's homegrowing, you're growing your advisors. So a lot of recruiters are trying to get existing advisors. The question was, I think, I'll rephrase it a little bit. Are you getting ROI in different phases? You basically break down every segment of the sales process in marketing process too, and then insert AI to see if you can get a lift. I said I wasn't going to give like the vendors, because I'm creating a list of like 400 AI companies, and it's going to be 100,000. It's going to be crazy, but one's Kixie. So it helps make outbound calls. It integrates with your CRM, and when you do this, it calls the person from calls 5 different numbers at the same time. I think they have 100,000 numbers, so it calls from a local area code. So when it's making all these calls, I'm a 617 guy, it calls from a 617 guy. There's all kinds of statistics that show that is more likely to be answered because you're more comfortable with that number. And then the next thing is, it will listen to the beginning of it and it will recognize, AI will recognize if it's an actual human or if it's a recording. It will drop anything else that's not a human. So then your one call, it's integrated with your CRM, all your notes go in. It's like an amazing thing. I don't know how they come up with these numbers because they're all new companies, but they say that it's 10x on their outbound calls. So if you have somebody that's making outbound calls, that's a vendor that you should know about. At least kick the tires and see what's going on. But now do that with every step of the process, and there's going to be an AI solution out there. I'll tell you, AI pilots or AI agents. If you're new and you don't know what that means, it's basically AI is going to take some task or someone's job. If you hear AI speakers say, "Oh, it's not going to take your jobs," it's going to eliminate jobs. But AI is going to take those jobs and do that work for you. So if you can break down these things this year in 2025, I think that's how you can start to work at this. There's one person I would go to, there's 2 AI booths, I won't say the name because I said I wasn't going to name, so you can wave to someone in the back. But that is really somebody that like you want to go in and start to figure out how can you integrate all these AI agents, right? How are you going to pull them together? Because that's the next future, 2006 and beyond, and 2025. I'll stop. I'll go to the next question.
Mike, real quick. So you talk about the process, like Kevin's talking about, you got your recruiting, you got the candidate in the hook, you did your interviews. Now you got a book of business, you got your grid, right? And you got this book of business they're coming in with. Do you see AI being able to marry that quicker to say that this book of business, you know, fits here in my grid, it's valuable to me? Do you see that work being auto-generated going forward?
So if I understood, you would want to know what their clients, what the makeup of their clients are. So
Not so much to make up the clients. Like the value of this book is I'm recruiting. You're a little different. You're homegrown.
Right.
If I'm recruiting an advisor, an existing book of business, I'm sending that through my process. I'm doing all this work. Say he's going to fit here in my grid, or she's going to fit here. This book is worth X to me, right? Sometimes, you know, you're relying on the information that the advisor gives you, right, to get there. Do you see AI making that process?
100%. So right now, there's all kinds of valuation tools and consultants and agencies. I would be scared if I was them, because you're going to be able to upload this information and do your own analysis and say, hey, this is what I would pay on it, and you can. That's a negotiation. But as you know, if you look under the hood, you're going to see different things that aren't all in the data. Does that make sense? But yes, that's a quick answer to your question. It's definitely going to be something that you can better it out, analyze a book before you would pay the money for it.
All right, you guys ready? Let's do it. This could be a future compliance officer coming in. As a student looking for internships, should I be using AI to shape my resume to conform to company values? My concern is, will it lead to just a dishonest practice or for people looking for a job and bringing a resume that might really not represent who they are?
So that's interesting. Right, when I first started using AI, the reason I didn't, like, I was a later adopter, I thought it was an integrity thing, right? You're kind of putting something in there, it's not really yours. I think as long as you shape it, you make it your own, you give attribution, you're fine. I think absolutely yes, because everyone else is going to be doing it, so you need to stay on the forefront, you need to be the best quality candidate you possibly can be. Don't lie, always, right? Like those are table stakes. Integrity, you always want to have that, you would never compromise that. And don't tell or paint a picture of someone who you are not, but I think, can you take your qualities, put it into whatever sort of AI platform you're going to utilize to make you the best possible candidate for that particular company? Absolutely, and I would do that. Because at the end of the day, you're going to speak with somebody along the way in the process, and you're going to have that conversation. But to be able to get in front of somebody, you've got to be competitive in order to get there. That's what I would admit.
And I would also say too, I mean, if you think about it too, if you're trying to match up with that company and their values, it's a way for you to understand, maybe is that the right company for you to join? So I think it's important to kind of look at it that way, because at the end of the day, you know, AI is going to do the best it can to match you, but I agree with you that you have to kind of take a little ownership and figure out, right, how does it fit with who I really am? And then you're in a good spot from there.
So can I be a little futuristic here? Everyone's used to a piece of paper as a resume. Right now, it is so easy to create videos. So if I was giving a presentation here, I would do, I've done this in some of them. I have a picture of me and The Rock, and we're both Hawaiian shirts in the lobby here. I have AI create that. And then I flip by, like, did anyone else see The Rock and I? Like, we were in the lobby, and everyone's like, no, that was so cool, he was here. And like, the next page is, it was BS, it's AI created it. And people, like, it's so real that they think that was a real picture. Now, in the future, we are not gonna have actresses and actors. We're gonna, like, AI is gonna create all this stuff. So now, imagine you make a first impression. It can be a link in your paper document, but it says, go to my video about who I am. That's a complete differentiator. So whoever asked that question, personalized video emails, it's a one-way message, or just create a video resume of who you are. You'll stand out from the crowd, and people will actually. The thing about video, and I give this advice to advisors too, is it's a chance for you to see a human being before you meet them. So it's a first impression before you have that first impression. So powerful in an interviewing process.
Yeah, and again, I think the takeaway on that for me is use AI for what gives you your value, right? The capabilities of this technology is incredible. I mean, just listen to the last panel of the real technologists, not hacks like us who aren't technologists. They were talking about AI, and that's kind of what that's what they kept impressing on me was it's endless. Possibilities are endless, and that you use it to your advantage because everyone will be, right? The other big message was, if you're not using it, figure out how to start using it, because if you don't start, you're gonna fall behind quickly. So all of this interviewing, when you're the interviewer, when you're the interviewee, it's worth it to kind of figure out how to use the process and use the technology.
Right, because at the end of the day, it's an extension of who you are. It's a tool, and you need to be proficient in utilizing that tool to the best of your abilities. It's no different than a race car driver who's a better driver than all of us, right? So somebody who's coming up nowadays, or even our age, or whomever, who's dove in, embraced it, learns how to utilize it to the best of their advantage, is going to be 3 steps ahead of us because they've used it. And it's about cultivating that, finding that candidate, bringing them in our house, in our walls, so that they can be proficient with that technology in our universe. So AI is boundless. It's going to continue to change, evolve, and move over the next 3 to 5 years, especially. It's going to jump light years down the road just this next year. But it's a matter of accepting that as a tool, and how can I wield that sword? How can I use that tool? How can I make this part of who I am?
Jason, are you here? So we met and checking in yesterday, and he, can I tell you a story? So he's wonderful. He battled throat cancer and can tell you way more, and was amazing and wanted to tell a story and created a website and everything, but he actually created a video that he wants it in 100 countries, and he's ready. So it's him speaking, and he's now in Malaysia and other countries. How many different languages?
It's going to be in 50 by the end of the month.
So it is amazing that he's trying to do this from a nonprofit side, outside of what he does, and you utilize this to spread the word, to make the world a better place, to help fight cancer and get his story out there, and it's a good story to hear. I recommend it. What's the website, just so they can check it out?
It's
supermanhpv.com. But now, take it back. That's a good plug. I hope every guys go check out that site. But now, think about on the recruiting side. I said the person that's interviewing can create their own video. These marketing teams at these big firms, or if you're nimble, this is a great tool. Start to create your own videos, and actually you don't have to have an actor or actress. Start to create these things, because video is a content that is being digested like crazy. If you go to YouTube, the stats are off the charts, and Instagram, and I would also recommend shorts. So on YouTube, it's a short, or Instagram, or TikTok if it survives, whatever it is. People know the trends. We're in an ADD society, whether you like it or not. So make snackable content. Don't give them the whole big meal. Just give them a little teaser that then links them back to your site. And then you pop up and you kind of create a voice. Now imagine you now start to have, I'll go off on something that I don't think is happening at all in the industry, but you have somebody that is, we'll call it a thought leader in our industry, but it's in regular marketing, it's an influencer. And so you build up this person that has a brand themselves, and they get your word out, and they get your story out. And it's not all marketing speak. You got some podcasters or some people creating messages, but video, I would highly, highly recommend. Learn some of the tools that can help you create videos, and then figure out how you can implement it, whatever strategy you're trying to do to be more effective.
Great, thanks, Mike. So we're going to move on to topic, so I'm going to try and move along here. So talent upskilling, right? So I found a little fact I'll start it off with, right? So just found this little fact. According to J.D. Power, it says average financial advisors may not stay with their current firm for more than 2 years. So that might, I don't know, that's a pretty staggering fact. I don't know how, it might be based, I would say it's probably based on age and where they are in their career. But having said that, let's, how would you guys talk about how do you address employee training and retention? What kind of AI tools are you seeing out there, or are you guys using? You want to kick off?
Yeah, I'll jump in. So we just integrated a platform called Generate, and it's specifically for our newer advisors coming on. As I talked about a moment ago, we homegrow our folks. So we traditionally would have them come on, give them sales scripts, have to memorize it over a 3, 4, 5 week process. They sit down with the manager, sales manager, whoever it may be, and do this kind of one-to-one, 1v1 relationship to do that. So Generate is it's an AI sales tool that we put right now we're just using it for our current conversations, and I'll kind of just tell you where I think we're going to go with this. But We put our current conversation in there now, so now the individual can have that conversation with the AI avatar. Right? They can go through that, they can do that, we can put any criteria we want, as restrictive we want to be with it, or as lax we want to be, depending, and they're doing that. Now they can do that anywhere. They can do it on their cell phone, driving to work, at their house, right? So now the scalability of this thing really starts to expand across our field force to be able to utilize that. The other piece to it where we want to go with this ultimately, so again, we're kind of just feeding it a very specific topic, and that's our sales conversation. But really the tool, and as it's been presented to us and as we want to go with, is it can be utilized for our whole entire sales force, right? So it could be something where, let's say a client has or an advisor rather has a big client close coming up or something like that. They can feed that into the system and then go through a process, really that client interview, or excuse me, that client engagement process already, and get feedback. And the tool is that sophisticated where if you're not using enough empathy or asking the right questions, you're not going to get to the end state you want to be. So it's rep over rep you can do with this system, as opposed to a one-on-one relationship with an advisor or a district advisor, someone like myself. It doesn't mean we obviously negate the person. We absolutely do continue to utilize them in the process, but it allows for that scalability and allows for that training to occur and be much more prolific across our organization. Last thing I'll say on it, it's not without its thorns, right? So it's like any other tech rollout you have, there's always issues that you have with it, whether the platform is glitchy and or doesn't quite do what you want. So I think once you do something like this, just understand once you roll it out. Obviously, I'm sure everyone's been through multiple tech rollouts. It's going to have its issues. It's going to be something that's an iterative process. You have to continue to work through and work with. But that's what we're doing right now. We've only had about 6 months. We've already seen progress. And the other part I would say that I failed to mention is you have to get adoption for this, right? Folks have to actually utilize this and get into it, because you need data. Like this, all AI feeds off of data, right, at the end of the day. So we need that data to make the process better, to see where we can go with it. But that's where we're going. We started to utilize it. We've had really good positive feedback. The younger demographic likes it. And even the older ones, the question we had about the older ones, they enjoy it too, right? It's something that they can do, and they found it to be helpful for them.
You touched on adoption, though. I'm just curious. How did you guys address the adoption of this? Because, right, I mean, again, going off of what I heard in the last hour in this room, it's important for these tools to continue to learn, to get the data, and obviously, there's different ways to do it, right? If it's a project, you're working with an organization, people could be feeding in, but if you're out in the field, you really need the field force to adopt.
Yeah, so it's leadership, right? It's down at the lower level, that sales manager getting with those individuals, ensuring that they're doing it, and you got to obviously sell it to a degree, the benefits of it, and how it's going to continue to impact the larger organization. So it's not an easy answer. You just got to be where the rubber meets the road. It's on the ground, work with the individuals that are going through it, and ensuring that they're utilizing it enough to help out.
Roughly how many people do you have utilizing that tool?
So we probably have right now 200 or 300 at the moment.
Okay.
So we're not a multi-thousand person firm, right? We have about 800 advisors, 900 advisors. So our newer folks have been utilizing it going through over the last 6 or 8 months or so.
So and when you turn that on, when they if I'm out in the field, I go through the experience of it. Does it catalog each time? Like you see that I've walked through the whole process 3 times this week?
Yeah, so you're a big brother. You can see it all, right? You can actually listen to it. You can listen to and watch the recordings of them doing it. So this is where the technology can actually give you, we haven't turned it on yet, but it can give you the feedback. Hey, they weren't empathetic enough, they weren't asking the right questions. That's the next phase of this. Right now it's just us looking at it, picking a video, going through it. But yeah, you can see everything, how long they've been in for, how many times they're in for, and you can watch it if you want to.
Sounds like a quarterly goal to me, right? Your KPI, you have 3 a week, but you have to do as a new employee. You have to do 3 to 5 in your first month. You have to do 5 times a week, so that you can start building it up and then figuring out who's doing it. If they're not doing it, then it affects your goal and the performance review by the end of the quarter.
Absolutely. Great idea.
Perfect.
Don't take that.
Rob, can I ask you a follow-up? So has this AI tool gotten to a point where it can really sort of measure and help you with the soft skills, believability, integrity, trust? Like,
I'm with you.
has it gotten to that
Yeah,
point?
so it's not there yet, right? So right now it's kind of prescriptive what we're putting into it and how we're having them utilize it. Because remember, we're going through a transitionary process where it's rote memorization off of, going through pages and pages. Now they're doing it in an interactive process with this avatar. That's the next phase. And it absolutely has the capability to do that. So I wish I had data points to give you right now and say yes or no, but that's where this is heading to. And we're hopeful by the end of this year we can have that.
There's actually an article on FA Magazine, I didn't write it, but the FBI created an AI to see if people are lying. So it's, people buying interviews, that would be pretty kind of cool to see if that's happening, and they can read emotion and all different types of things.
Yeah, and again, I think what we would see is, as you said, right, for AI to work on that, you have to have people feeding in the information on how to look at their expressions, how they the believability. So it's all iterative, right? And you got to continue to just bring the data in.
And it's what you're looking for, right? It's not some standard level of sales criteria, right? It's whatever consultative sales skills you as an organization want to use and integrate. So you're teaching your folks that, and then it has to go into the machine, start populating the data, so therefore you can grade on it later on. It's an iterative process. It takes time. We're just starting it out on it, and then we'll eventually integrate our sales approach and our processes into it.
Mike, anything to add on that topic? You guys good? Next one. Yeah, because I'm looking through them. We have two more, so we'll see if we get to both of them. I don't know if we will. So the next topic we want to touch on was how any kind of input or thoughts about how we're using AI to support the advisor, right? Are there any kind of tools that we're using to help develop their skills, or even develop how to get their book of business in? Maybe a little bit about how they're acquiring new business.
The only thing I would add to that, right now, besides the recruiting process we talked about, or the Generate that I talked about, the corporate adoption, at least in our space, is slower because of regulation, right? With FINRA, the SEC, we don't really know where they're going. At FSI's board meeting yesterday, just in the other room, and we had FINRA's president, I think Robert Cook, in there, and he was saying, we want to work with you on adopting an AI kind of policy, what that's going to look like, what that framework's going to look like. So I think there's some apprehension when we start turning on these spigots of different tools. There's a ton of them out there. We really want to protect client data and all the rest, so that we don't have a lot right now, besides some of the ones that advisors can use on their own without putting client data into, or any sort of PII or anything like that. The co-pilots and the Zoom companions of the world can be turned on in a minute. Our company personally is slower to adopt that, and really it's just a regulatory standpoint. We're just, and really our client, our data, and integrating that. So there are tools that are there, but I think right now we haven't used it to its fullest, frankly, so I can't speak with great, examples on that one, but we're going there very quickly.
Yeah, and I can say from the other side of the coin, not from advisors that obviously have more an operational component, our firm is leaning into AI. So we've got a chatbot when you go on our website. It's called Evo. You can go in there, you have a conversation with Evo. What do you need in your account? What kind of questions do you have? And that's the first thing that they're going to get. When you talk about bringing over books of business, so again, not from the advisor side, you're looking more wide scale from a broker-dealer conversion or an advisory conversion. AI can be tremendously helpful to go in there and look at that book so that we can analyze what's coming over, so that by the time it gets to our side of the fence, we know the account-based demographics, what they have, what's moving forward, and then what we need to brace for as that comes over. So AI is tremendously helpful in spinning through those large amounts of data so that we understand what we're getting on the other side. So yeah, we're from a clearing and banking side and custody side, we're using those tools. We're working towards the adoption, but Co-Pilot has just been rolled out, a pilot program. Thank you, I'm here all week. So we rolled out a pilot program for Co-Pilot, and
Get your dad joke in.
awful. So I got that going for me, which is nice. But so we rolled out Co-Pilot, and we're utilizing it across the organization. We're starting to get into that, but it's a matter for adoption. It's senior management, senior leadership to show how we're using it, and then like that other panel said, make it the personal touch. Forget about work for a second, right? Utilize it in your personal life, because then they're going to get excited. They're going to start using it in their personal life. It'll bleed into their work life. So again, we're starting off with Co-Pilot to push that out there for a wider use and adoption.
Thanks, great. Mike, anything?
No, want to go to questions or final thoughts?
Yeah, we're gonna wrap it up. So yeah, are there any other questions anybody have? Because we'll just wrap it up right down in like 5 minutes.
What are your fears in this? What worries you about AI in your recruiting process or in your business?
T1000, Terminator,
Skynet.
I don't think it's necessarily the recruiting process. I think it's AI in general. It's just the speed, the rush to get into it, to utilize it, and turn on all these different platforms. We have to do the due diligence from a security standpoint, right? Because it's that cybersecurity nature of it that comes in. So I think how we turn this on, And also the other piece to it, and this may be kind of more to your question, just came to mind as I'm talking, is you won't lose the human element of this, right? Because I think that's something that can get lost if it just becomes all one or the other. So I think that's a critical piece. So the security nature of it, as we integrate this into all of our platforms, get comfortable with it, we don't rush to something that obviously becomes compromised, I think is kind of critical, but also we don't lose the human element of this whole process.
Question back?
My name's Jefferson, I was a student from earlier, so kind of addressing your human element, our capstone for our program for financial planning, we have to create a portfolio for a client, do the whole process, insurance, tax, money, all that stuff. And so on day one, we saw a professor interviewing a client, showing what it's like, and then he told us that he wasn't actually interviewing the client, he put all this information into an AI. And it fooled all of us because it wasn't this AI that was like, knew all the facts. Like the AI was able to say, I'm not for sure, but I'm pretty sure it's blah, 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 blah. So it had a really human element to where we couldn't tell until we were told.
Yeah, and I think what you're seeing when you're talking about building portfolios and model portfolios and how you're managing that, there is the AI component. There's recommendations that the advisors are putting in there, and the system is coming back and it's saying, this is what I would recommend, but that's where the human touch comes in, because that advisor, most advisors are probably not just hitting the button and letting it go. They're talking to the client, they're sitting down with them, they're understanding their needs, their desires, where they want to go in the next 5 to 10 years. And though they have the recommendation, they want to make sure that that portfolio is built to really meet the needs. So maybe AI will get we will get to that point where the robo-advisor is just to take it and run with it. But again, that human element is of the utmost importance to really understand what that AI program has modeled out and recommended and then reviewed and then push it out there.
Yeah, and I think it's been, in our industry for a long time. We've had robo-advisors in that for a long time. This is the next iteration of that. I think there's folks who want that. Just like if they want to do something over the phone or, on their apps or whatever, and that's great, but for as many as those, just as many who want to deal with sit down with a person, right? So I think that's always been a segmentation of our industry. So whether the technology gets to the point where you could sit with an avatar, right, they can walk through the whole process, someone may want that, and then, they can go with it, or just as many want to sit down with somebody else. So that doesn't necessarily scare me, that's coming down the pike. I think it's natural, it's a natural evolution, it's just the next stage of this. But people, at the end of the day, I think still want to deal with people, at least I do, so. I think it'll always be a thing.
Yeah. So you get 60 seconds or less. Okay. One final thought for the crew and what they want to take away. We're running out of time. We can't hold them as long.
I'll go first. There's basically 3 categories of AI. Think about it this way. There's your personal AI. It's going to be on your phone. There's going to be open AI like ChatGPT, and then there's going to be AI that's, I call it like enterprise AI. Basically, every technology is going to have some component of AI if they want to survive. That stuff's going to be harder for you to see. There's different tools and different things that if you're not paying and subscribing, you're not going to see. So learn as fast as you can the other 2 categories, from your personal life and your business life. I bet you the first category, most people aren't there yet. So create your own AI. Second one is utilize like ChatGPT or whatever it might be. Be as comfortable as you can with it. The cat's on the bag. This stuff's not going backwards. So I know there is some fear about it. We need to step cautiously, but it's already running. Like, so if you go too cautiously, you get too far behind.
The only thing I would add, I think we need to embrace it, right? I think it's here, it's going to help us. We call it the military the combat multiplier. It's just going to make us better at doing our job and accomplishing our tasks. So I think we just want to do it with prudence, with diligence, and how we do it and when we do it, but it's going to make us more effective at what we do. So I'm a proponent of it. Just do it intelligently and smartly.
Yeah, and I'm pretty easy with it. My advice would be to embrace it, take a look at it. If you haven't set up a ChatGPT account or haven't really gotten into AI, open it up, have fun with it, enjoy it. Forget about the work aspect of it, forget about the fact that it's coming and it's going to be here in the next year. Log into it tonight and ask it questions and see what comes back. And then if you don't like the answer, tell it you want it a little funnier, or you want it a little easier, or you want it a little more business-like, and see what happens, see what it does. But again, my advice would be, try it tonight. Start playing around with it, and then once you're comfortable in your personal life, it will meld itself into your professional.
And we all went to dinner last night, and we agreed that's the worst version we're ever going to see in our lives. So if you don't quite get exactly what you want, don't worry. In a year, it's going to be better and better and better.
And I'll close with this on a more macro level. When I think about AI and I think where my organization is helping other firms, it's like any other large change. It's all about change management. It's all about the people, right? Technology is a tool. It's important. I agree with you, Mike. People's jobs will be replaced. But let's think about it. We need people. We always talk about it in this industry. We want people to move up the scale of what they do and how they produce and how they bring client satisfaction and bring value to our clients. That's what I try to stress to people when they ask me about AI and what we talk about with our clients. It's another opportunity for change management. It's another opportunity for organizations to really think about value. And our whole industry is about value. It's about dreams. It's about delivering for our clients. And this is a great tool. And I'm not fearful. I think we'll have a lot more people in this industry helping people achieve those goals, because that human touch isn't going away. But these tools will help us get more people available to do that. So I want to thank you all for your attention. I want to thank everybody for being here. Round of applause. I think we had a great panel. These guys did a great job. Enjoy the rest of the night.
Thank you.